Welcome again back to the live streaming Hack Chat show. This one is potentially the last stream of the day, and this one's special because we have a OG, like really OG, Defcon 1 staffer, kind of. He's been to like all of the Defcons, but it's my pleasure to have my brother from another mother, Noid. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Thanks for having me, Marco. Yep. Well, as you just said, I'm Noid. I am one of the original DEF CON organizers. I went to DEF CON 1 and it's funny. I didn't want to go to DEF CON 1, but I got drugged to DEF CON 1. Had so much fun that I started getting involved and was staff at DEF CON 2 and then continued to remain on staff through DEF CON 21 or 22 when I finally handed everything off to Sea Junkie. But yeah, no, we got to go through all that learning curve where it's like, okay, is this a party? Is this something bigger than that? You know, like trying to like kind of figure out what our place was. Like when this whole thing started, like we had no idea what it was going to be. We had no idea what it was going to be. I mean, there were people that were just like, you know, they didn't want to go because they thought the whole thing was like a big Fed trap. You know, they were going to lure us all to Vegas and arrest us and that kind of thing. And because that's the thing, a lot of folks don't realize these days that there was a period of time when it wasn't cool to be a hacker, and it was kind of scary.
Yeah, and this was 1993. This is old school, right? I mean, for me, when I speak to you, it's like speaking to someone that has written the history of DEF CON and has done so much for the community and is so well known by the old school hackers, by the new school hackers. You know, the first thing I want to like bring up, how different is it like every year since you've been a part of DEF CON? Has it changed over every year and evolved?
Well, part of it is, I mean, the whole community itself has changed. Back in the sort of early days of this, I gotta close my Twitter window. It's distracting me every time it updates.
Don't worry about that. But listen, we are live, so ask your questions, guys. Ask your questions. I mean, this guy's a historian. He's been in the game forever.
But yeah, no, it was different back in the day. You know, it's like hackers weren't as quick to announce themselves as such. We were gatekeepy, but for kind of a very good reason. It was, you know, where we fell in society was kind of towards the bottom. And so we had to make sure that people, you know, we didn't let people in that were going to potentially, you know, upset the apple cart.
Yeah.
You know, people that are going to get you in trouble, people that are trouble, that kind of thing. And then I've watched it. Plus, the internet really wasn't as omnipresent as it is today.
Yeah.
It wasn't as ubiquitous as it is. And so like information was still kind of stored in little repositories that you had to know the right people to get access to. And then as things have changed and hackers have become more accepted in mainstream society, the barrier to entry for being a hacker is as easy as going to Google and asking questions like, how do I hack?
Since you was there from the beginning, when did you see the transition of hackers being cool? Maybe don't give the year, but give the DEF CON number.
I'd say probably around DEF CON 9.
Okay.
DEF CON 9, because that was like the .com boom was going, and that's really what did it.
Yeah.
You know, because all of a sudden you had these people that are like, oh, you're a computer, you're never going to amount to nothing. And it's like, I'm driving around Vegas in a rented Ferrari.
And that was back in the Alexis Park days where you had the tent on the roof and it was 109 degrees and it was bacon. But to me, those are the fun times because back then it was a very small community, and now it's an industry, and you know every 4 years you see the turn that more and more people come in, and now you know DEFCON is like 14, 15, 16,000. I think last year was 30,000. Oh, sorry, the year before that I think it was like 30 or something like that.
What I heard.
But I remember Alexis Park DEFCON 9 was around 300, 400 people.
By the time we left the AP, we were at probably about 3,500 people.
Mm.
And I still couldn't believe it. I just could not believe that we had multiple thousands of people coming to this thing. And then when it started to go like over 10,000 people, 20,000 people, it's like, okay, this is ridiculous. You know,
Yeah.
it's a good problem to have, but it just kind of goes to show how things have taken off. And how I mean, it used to be kids would run away from home to go to DEF CON. Now their parents bring them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. I feel like the community, the hacker community is so much love and family. And we know Andre, that's when I went to DEF CON 8, I met one person. It was Andre Hall. And I had him on yesterday. I bigged him up and you know, it's for me, it's important that I've built all these relationships and they're lifelong relationships. And I think over the last 2 days, having people come on, they miss that, right? They miss going to conferences and having those conversations, and because they've built these relationships over years. You know, you've been in the game, and some of the people that are in the game are family members now, right? Like Andre, I was like, you know, when I'm 80, we're going to be in rocking chairs talking about the good old days.
Oh yeah. No, it's funny too. Him and I met at a Linux user meet at a community college.
Wow.
Me and some of my crew rolled down there, checked it out. The people there were pretty lame. except we met Dre, and it turned out he used to be on one of the hacker BBSs that our buddy ran. And at that point, we're like, well, we're getting the hell out of here, man. You want to come with us? And he was like, yeah. And we've been hanging out together ever since.
Yep.
And that's how this stuff happens. And yeah, and that's one of the negatives to DEF CON being as big as it is. Like, my people are still there. I just, like, I have to hunt for them now.
Yeah. Yeah. And usually I think over the last like 4 DEF CONs I've been to, it's like if I see someone, I'm like, hey, give me a text because I'm probably not going to see you again because it's so big. And, you know, I miss all just being there. Like this week is that time that, you know, you take your time out and you get to hang out and catch up. I haven't spoken to you for around 3-4 years. And, you know, I was like, I have to have Noid on because you're like a historian of DEF CON. And, you know, I want to know what was DEF CON 1? How did that look like? How many people showed up?
So that is subject to some debate.
Okay.
Jeff insists that there was like 110 people there.
Okay.
I don't think so. I'll tell you, Friday night, there was kind of a little pre-party, and a bunch of the LA crew came out for it. Mm-hmm. But most of them didn't stick around. It was like, hey, so you going to be at the conference tomorrow? And they're like, oh, hell no. Mm-hmm. like y'all going to jail.
Yeah.
And so they took off. But yeah, the very first DEF CON, the entire conference fit in a room that's smaller than the rooms DEF CON uses for the teams to stage out of.
Wow.
We were in like a multi-purpose room, like at the end of a hallway. And I remember because I had to sit, me and Dead Addict had to sit in the service corridor to watch the talks because we wanted to smoke.
Wow, that's old school where you still could smoke indoors. And you know, it 1993 it's just amazing. Like I think of like DEFCON 9 was like you said big. I think when they moved over from Alexis Park, was it to the Riviera?
Yeah, to the Riviera.
To the Riv. The Riv, I feel like it was big, right? That's when the popularity and stuff, and you see people still when they blew the Riv up, people went to Vegas to see it because it meant something to them because of Defcon, and
Oh yeah.
you know the, I think Lost Boy said it best. He tweeted, "I don't know where I would be if it wasn't for Defcon." And I replied to him, I told him I would still be in the Bronx. And that right there said, that tweet really had me reflecting, and this is why I reached out to you to come on here, because DEF CON has changed so many lives, and can you give the viewers out there, the people that are watching, what DEF CON means to you?
So what DEF CON means to me has changed because it's changed.
Mm-hmm.
To me, these days, DEF CON is an amazing jumping off point.
Mm-hmm.
It's, it used to be when you got into information security, if you could even get into information security,
Yes, sir.
you had the body of knowledge was a lot smaller, and you were expected to know everything. So you might be doing pen testing, you might be doing security architecture, you might be doing forensics, you might be doing compliance stuff. And then when information security got huge, there are so many different domains that you have to specialize. Like when I have a mentee, one of the first things I have my mentees do is make me a list. What are the top 10 things you want me to teach you? And then I have them draw a line between number 3 and number 4. And I say, I'm going to teach you everything above that line. Because if not, we're going to grow old and die trying to get you up to speed. And the thing about DEF CON that I like is that you can do that in real life. You can show up at DEF CON now and basically go dabble in different domains and see what clicks with you. You might learn things that you didn't know about yourself. Like I've seen people who, like, wow, I'd never soldered before in my life, and it turns out I'm really good at it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like now they want to hack hardware.
Yep.
Something that they never even figured, oh, there's no way I could be that good. And then they, pop root on some little embedded device and they're like, oh, snap, that's easy.
Yeah. And
like,
I found
all right,
my
give me
niche
something
and
harder.
I found my thing.
Yeah. And I love the way it also brings in people that are willing to teach. Because, I mean, we've got this amazing community full of ridiculously smart people. You got people like Joe Fitzpatrick, who just teaching his hardware hacking stuff. You got like Ian Coldwater talking about Kubernetes. I mean, one of the things that I've always liked is that now that it's okay to share information, you don't have to worry about getting picked up. That people are happy to step up and do it and be like, yeah, I learned a lot about this thing, and I'm going to try to get y'all up to speed on the thing I know a lot about. And I like to see that knowledge hoarding is going away. I mean, I'm sure it's still out there, but at the same time, it's becoming it's to the point where if you're hoarding knowledge at this point, you're lording over your little domain, trying to like you're done.
Yeah,
like
and that's why I love, like, even doing this hack chat, it's about sharing someone else's knowledge and passing that over. And I always say it's 1 over 0, right? If I can help one person, that's why I'm doing this. It's not like, oh, I want this to be like the Joe Rogan. No, it's about helping. One person might see this and might say, oh my God, I'm going to take this idea and run with it and make something happen. And to me, that's what's important. That's why I continue to like learn and try to teach and try to mentor and make things happen. And, I feel like I'm still a white belt, right? Even though I have years in the game, but I treat myself, I bow into to work and bow out like if I'm in a karate school, because I get to do it. And this is like a playground. I love to do it. And people are way, better at me in certain things, and that's fine. And that's how you get to become a better person in the game. And I owe everything to this game. It has given me all of the things I've wanted, you know, and but more importantly, it gives me that, at least for me, it gives me the substance that I need. Like I love knowledge and I love learning and tweaking and hacking. And it's something that is embedded with most of the community and people that go to Black Hat and Defcon. Let me ask you, what are some of the biggest things you've seen in DEF CON besides the size, but the activities and the bigger changes that you've seen?
Tell you, the number one thing, like first off, like when we started creating these villages,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of felt like it went off the rails a little bit because
Mm,
it's like there are so many freaking villages.
mm,
And the one, however, that has really, really done it for me is the vote hacking village.
mm.
Like I was at a point where I was starting to think like, maybe DEF CON's run its course. Maybe it's time for DEF CON to get out of the way and see what will replace it. And then the vote hacking village came up. And the next thing you know, those cats are getting asked to come talk to government officials and do their demonstrations there. And it's like, wait, okay, hold up. Like this is actually changing things, or at least trying to.
Yeah.
The powers that be, of course, want
Mm-hmm.
the status quo to remain. Well, they got more money than us.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we get media exposure.
Mm-hmm.
And like the vote hacking village was probably one of the best things I've seen come out of DEF CON in the last 10 years.
Wow.
But that, as well as like the hardware hacking village, like I've always been into hardware hacking, always been into it. And up until just a few years ago, I mean, it still is kind of a dark art, but it's being democratized. And you can now learn it. Whereas like, so things like the hardware hacking village, it's like, it just makes me happy to see that stuff is like, part of
DEFCON.
it too is that gear has become cheaper. Tooling has become cheaper.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go get like
is there.
yeah, $30 can get you a Bitmagic logic analyzer.
Yep.
You don't have to drop, $900 on like a Soleil 8 or anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, that stuff's becoming more available. So yeah, like the vote hacking village and like the hardware hacking village have been absolutely huge in terms of getting eyes on things, especially the like medical device.
Yeah.
I started wearing hearing aids earlier this year.
Really?
And oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I bet
I've
you were
got
hacking with it. You was
well,
hacking
and that's
with
exactly it. Like in looking at the stuff that's been getting done, like the medical hardware, the medical device hacking, like has got me like way into my hearing aids right now. In fact, I'm actually doing stuff to them like this week,
Nice. Nice.
Trying to figure out how to get around some things. And yeah, it's all going to be going hopefully into a talk that I'll be giving at maybe DEF CON next year.
Yes. As everything opens up. You know, it's funny because DEF CON, I feel like, is this giant company. It has subsidiaries of these little cons underneath it, right? And there's so many little villages. They're their own cons, like the Red Team Village. It's awesome,
Oh yeah,
man.
they have their own speakers, their own parties, their own DJ lineup. I mean, it's
yeah.
and I like that. It's funny. At first, something about that bothered me. I couldn't put my finger on what it was that bothered me about it. And I still can't put my finger on what bothered me about it. But I've since come around because, so DEF CON, I put a lot of my life into, but I also help organize. I founded in a security conference in Los Angeles called Layer One.
Yes, sir.
And I've put on tons of little events and things. And it's like, I know a thing or two about a thing or two when it comes to organizing conferences.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not for the faint of heart. It's expensive. And it's expensive in ways that you won't even realize until the bill's sitting in front of you. And by sort of having DEF CON become like a con of cons,
Mm-hmm.
It's allowing a whole bunch of people they've got the passion, they've got the vision, they've got the idea of the thing they want to do. They just have sort of no clue where to start doing it as a standalone thing. And DEF CON kind of like turned that into like a turnkey operation where it's like, yeah, you just get your village approved. You worry about bringing the content.
Mm-hmm.
And, you let DEF CON handle all the power strips and the, you know, union rule stuff for moving equipment. And you let DEFCON handle all that, because a lot of these little events, if they tried to just go out on their own and do a standalone thing, like they like the first year we did layer one, I was a pretty seasoned conference organizer. I'd been with DEFCON for years at this point. But the one thing I'd never been in the room for were the hotel negotiations. That was strictly a Jeff Moss thing. And as a result, the first year we threw layer one, we got our asses handed to us. The hotel, I mean, they just took us. And like, thankfully, we were, you know, it was .com era. We're all rolling in cash pretty good. So we were able to take the hit and keep doing them. But I think a lot of these little, like these villages, if they tried to do it as a standalone thing, like, yeah, I think it would just wreck them. And so DEFCON takes away that barrier, and I think it's a really awesome idea now.
Let me ask you, for the people that are watching this and they're going to watch this, you know, how do you negotiate when you're setting up a conference? How do you negotiate with a hotel? Because those are inside things that you only know, that you can give nuggets to, that people are wanting to do their own B-sides and all these things.
Yeah. So couple of tips and tricks. First off, leverage your network of contacts. You don't have to necessarily throw your thing in a hotel. You might be able to get away with doing it at, you know, one of your university's lecture halls. Some libraries, especially in big cities, some libraries have conference rooms that are perfectly acceptable for doing like a village size event. So basically look for ways to do that. If you're going to be in a hotel, the number one piece of advice I can give anybody is you're going to be presented with two options. You either take a food and beverage commitment, meaning that you as a conference plan, you know, you will consume $20,000 worth of food and drink, and you'll consume that much, or you'll owe the difference. The other option they give you, and the one that looks good, is hotel room nights. If you get us X number of hotel room nights, then we'll give you the space for pretty much nothing.
Free.
But if you don't hit those hotel room numbers, you have to pay the difference. And this is what burned us, because we decided to go for, you know, less money out up front. And then we learned something. And that's when you throw a regional conference like Layer 1. Layer 1's very much a regional conference. When you do that, most of your attendees aren't going to stay in the hotel.
Yeah, they're going to go back home.
They're going to go home. And so now, all of a sudden, you are like one of my partners in Layer 1, M. M was calling up all of his cousins and nephews and everybody in K-Town and saying, "Hey, you want a hotel room for the night? It's free. Bring your friends, come down and party." Just because we're paying for these things anyways.
Yeah.
And when it comes to meeting that food and beverage commitment, you will hit it, no problems. Just make sure when your attendees are drinking at the bar, they make sure their bar tab gets tallied up under your F&B commit. Because when you sit back and think, God, $20,000 worth of food, but then when you realize getting a keg of Guinness at a hotel is $800. Yeah, you're gonna hit that 20K pretty damn quick. I mean, we threw a nacho bar at Layer 1 year, and I think that nacho bar was like $8,000.
Wow.
So yeah, go with the food and beverage commit. Don't do the room night commit until you're filling up hotels.
Now, when did you throw the Layer 1? Because we live in a different time now, and even Layer 1 is OG.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, we threw the first Layer 1 in 2003.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, like it's Jesus. Yeah, no, I feel old.
So the thing is, nowadays you have all these sponsors and all these companies wanting to throw money. They have budget for it, right? So now I think it could be easier if you could leverage those contacts so you could get sponsor money and all that. but it's still a heavy lift.
And
You
that
know,
sponsor money comes with strings.
yes,
You
yes,
know, some like I when we started doing layer one, like I was begging Katie Masuri to like, come on, just kick us some money. I know we're not as cool as DEF CON, but like, come on, just throw us something. And I liked the fact that like, courtesy of her, it came with no strings attached.
hmm
There was no obligation that we would pick Microsoft speakers,
yeah,
or that we'd say good things, or that we would turn down talks that would say bad things about there was nothing, but there are companies out there that'll be
yeah.
like, yeah, we'll give you 20 grand,
But you need to take two of our speakers.
two of our
Or
speakers, and we noticed you got this guy talking about our product, and he's kind of a dick. So we'd prefer if he didn't speak. And then all of a sudden, it's the same thing startups feel, where it's like they just give away shares of their company in lieu of money, and then suddenly realize they don't own their company anymore. And you can do that with conferences real quick. You got to find, now, thankfully, there's a lot of really cool people out there willing to, I mean, like I'm sure Dave Kennedy
yeah,
sponsors stuff, Grim,
yep,
Grim Cyber sponsors thing. I mean, there's folks out there they get it.
hmm
They get it. They'll kick you cash and they'll like help you, but there are also big companies out there too that'll be like, oh yeah, we'd love to throw a huge party at your event, but it's going to be a big marketing thing for us.
yeah,
And it's like, yeah, but do I want to look like a NASCAR driver?
yeah, yeah.
Just covered in sponsorship patches. And it's like,
You
I
don't want to
always
be
set a
that
bar for sponsorship. Say like, I want 10 grand in sponsorship money.
guy. Hmm
I can get that from one company. I can get it from 10 companies. But once I hit that 10 grand number, I'm done.
And when was the last time you threw layer one?
The last time I threw layer one was probably 5 years ago.
Okay.
Um,
Is this still
the,
going? Because I
it's
haven't.
still going.
Okay.
In fact, it happened this year, but it happened virtually.
Ah. And
Uh,
did you step away from layer one?
I did mostly because I was the only organizer, because I moved to Washington State. I was the only organizer that wasn't in LA. And trying to get things done, because I was the registered agent for the corporation,
Yeah.
and it's just such a pain in the ass when you're not near the place.
Yeah. There's a lot of
So
work that goes into it.
yeah, so I just handed it off to the crew that had been running with it. They're doing a bang up job. I've got they'll do me proud,
Yeah.
and then so yeah, and that freed me up to kind of go on to other things as well. And so yeah, I handed it off, and around the same time I stepped back from DEF CON because I wanted to do something else.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, that's the thing. You did DefCon 21 years. What kept you coming back and doing it over and over again?
The community. I do DEF CON for the community. When I can sit back and watch people go to a DEF CON, and then 3-4 years later they're working in the industry, and another year or two after that they're presenting at DEF CON, like that makes it for me. And just yeah, doing it for the community, because yeah, now I seen that story has played out so many times where it's like, I went to DEF CON, I found my people, this whole thing is for me, I got a job from DEF CON, and next year I'll be speaking on the main stage on the first day of the conference, and it's just like, well done,
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic.
I mean, for me, like I said, DefCon it has changed my life in every way. I've met people, I've gotten jobs at DefCon, and that story, like you said, plays out over and over and over again. And what happens is, during COVID, you miss that feeling. How has COVID treated you over the last year and a half?
Well, my 2020 was pretty kick-ass. My 2020 it was funny. I had been trying to ease my boss into the idea of me working remote full time, and I'd been starting to work from home more and more often. And then all of a sudden COVID happened, and I pitched it from the angle of like disaster response, business continuity. Let's move the team remote. This thing ain't going to be over overnight. We know that. So went remote, had a really great year. Working remote full time was every bit as positive as I thought it was going to be. Now, 2021 has brought a lot of personal issues. It's like I told you earlier, my old man had a stroke at the beginning of the year, and it's just this year has just been one trial after another. But and COVID's playing a role in some of that. Like, we've been trying to move, and it's hard to do things, quickly. Like, I spent most of last year trying to get my windows replaced on my house so I could put it up for sale, because the supply chain was disrupted, and the window company had installers sitting around waiting for work. They just literally needed the damn windows. So yeah, my 2021's been pretty chaotic, but then again, from being on Twitter every day, I'd say my 2021 is pretty average with what everybody else has got going on.
Absolutely. It has been a tough year and a half, a lot of transitioning. Myself, last year, I left Intel and started at Sentinel-1. It was absolutely the best decision I made. I wasn't even thinking that, Sentinel-1 was going to go public, right? I went over there. It was an amazing opportunity. The manager that I was working for is amazing. Shout out to Migo. Just a good guy. And then I was working with smart people. So it was like that whole thing with like-minded individuals. And, but life kicks you in the nuts sometimes, right? Where, work is perfect, and then you have your personal life where you're dealing with things and it becomes a little bit more difficult, and then you try to juggle. And that's the way I feel like COVID, has not only put a speed bump in our lives, but also reveal things that maybe you weren't like really facing head on. And that's the way I feel. Like, now it's still, difficult, and we're doing stuff. And like I said, it's crazy because this past Saturday I had a cold, like I said, and you immediately is like, I have the vaccine, this is COVID, and this, that, and the other. And it's weird. It's weird. Anytime your throat starts itching and you feel a little scratchy, it's like,
oh yeah,
I hope this isn't COVID, because you hear these terrible stories. And I had a friend that in the last year he lost 2 pillars in his life. Both parents died of COVID. And COVID has impacted everyone. Even if you don't think so, it has, right? My fiance's uncle passed away that we didn't know, and these things, affect everyone. And look, I'm a caregiver myself, and the first shot of the vaccine revealed it was a blessing to my mom. She had a heart attack. Because, it was Moderna. It wasn't Moderna. It revealed it. Because we didn't know she had a blockage, and with the vaccine, it races, your heart pumps more, and my mom started having pain. So this is what I'm saying. It reveals stuff that you don't know, and in a way, it's a blessing, because what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And
for me, or can sometimes leave you very, very weak.
Yes, weak in the knees.
Yeah,
and for me,
I'm glad your mom's doing better.
Yeah, she is doing better. They put a stent. Everything is good. But like I said, we are strong. We will prevail through this. I think my whole prediction is that at RSA, everything will be next year. Everything will be, more normal. Even with the masks, we're gonna have masks. You had mentioned before we went live that one year you had the swine flu from the con flu at Defcon. Yeah. And that's kind of why people have stepped back. I'm a transition. This was today's picture. I had a friend send me a picture from Black Hat. This is today's keynote at Black Hat. You've never seen it like this. But yeah, it's empty, and kudos for them for continuing to push on and say, hey, we're going to try to get back to normal. con activities, and we're gonna set it up. And shout out to Jeff Moss. Hopefully I could get him on today. That would be cool. But this is not gonna stop us. We're gonna keep on moving forward. And hopefully everyone out there, you guys are pushing forward and reaching out to people. When you're going through something, make sure you reach out to people, man. This is not easy on anyone.
That's the thing. We're hackers. Like the digital world, I mean, this is our world. We built this.
Mm-hmm.
And, so we should be thriving in this. And now one of the funny things is, as much as we like to portray ourselves as somewhat misanthropic and, we don't care for people much, but one of the things that has come out of this is a lot of us have learned that, no, we actually do miss people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But at the same time, it's like, yeah, there's no reason why we can't be thriving in this, because like the world has been shoved into, the world's come to us. The whole world's been shoved online, and that's our place. So
that's where we live.
Yeah, it's where we live. It's where we work. It's where we have fun. It's what we do. And so I've got no doubt that the hacker community will thrive. The hacker community will continue to grow. And in fact, I know a lot of people that are using this time right now to like get good at things.
Yeah, level up.
And once we come out of this pandemic, like, these guys are just gonna, these guys and gals are just gonna launch out and be like, hey, like, you thought I was good before, but check me out now. Look at what I've learned. I know I'm reading a lot more.
Absolutely. I'm home all the time. We got the time. We have the time. Where are you going? For me, I feel like, everything now has elevated everyone's game, because you're seeing, your APTs, your nation states, you're seeing cyber ransomware running rapid, and the White House is acknowledging, hey, we're setting up a task force, just to tackle ransomware and critical infrastructure, and we're partnering now with the tech giants to take our security to a new level. This is where we shine. We shine on that. This is our domain. So, you could have non-technical people stating, hey, we're going to start linking up and doing these things. But guess what? We're the experts. All of us that are in this community and that have been here, and even new people getting into the industry. This is the beginning. I feel like cybersecurity is still in its infancy. I do believe that. And yesterday I had a VC on, Angel Gomez, and he said, look, now I'm investing in companies and telling them from the outset to begin to invest in securing whatever product they're building. Like, bake security in now, not when you already built everything and now you have to go back to square one to start re-implementing security. And that is a game changer.
Yeah. No, it's so first off, I think information security is always going to stay in its infancy. Mm-hmm. Just because it's a constantly changing thing. Mm-hmm. It doesn't grow and evolve like other things do. So I think it's the only constant. It is an industry where the only constant is change. Yeah. Because, I knew a ton of stuff in the 90s that's not a lot of it's relevant anymore. And there's people learning stuff right now that, at some point in time, somebody's going to be sitting back going, remember when we used to use containers?
That is the truth. I always say, I agree. And man, who would have thunk, like 10 years ago, you would say McAfee is no longer, right? Or FireEye 5 years ago is they sold off their business, and now Mandiant has separated themselves to do IR stuff. It's shocking, but you must evolve. You cannot, not evolve and constantly change with the times. And this is what, we're dealing with. right? This is the game. And you probably have another 15, 20 years in your career. Let's just say you're
Yeah.
going to move every 4 years. So you're going to have 4 to 5 more different jobs that you're going to take, you know, and that is the name of the game. That you're the days of you staying at a company for 20 years and retiring, I don't think it's no longer, because, you know, things are always changing. Whether you're in a business of security, or let's say you're in clothing, or, you know, retail, right? You're going to need security people, but that's not your business. You're a cost. Security is a cost. If you're a Louis Vuitton or a Target, you're just red. You're in the red for them. And as they get attacked, as I seen in my career, like when I was at Intel, they didn't take security serious until they had the chip flaw. Then security became a big thing, and I'm happy, right? Now you see all these small little silos of red teaming where they're auditing code and doing stuff and making stuff more secure on the chip, on BIOS. And this is where we're going. You have to invest in it, and you have to have that security mindset from the beginning. And that's what I've seen in my experience.
This is a field where you can't stop learning, because once you stop learning, or you make the decision to stop learning, you're done.
That is
You
true.
just you've hit your apogee at that point, and it's just a decline. You have to. I'm fully committed to the fact that I am going to keep learning until the day I go in the box.
I agree. I mean,
You know?
I feel, you know, I've been in the game already, you know, 18 years, and I still feel like a white belt. Why? Because you have to have that mentality. Technology is constantly changing. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
what in 10 years from now, do you think, you know, like you said, containers or Kubernetes are going to stay the same? It's going to evolve to something else. And that is the name of the game. And
yeah. No, it totally. It's funny. Just this morning, as I was getting up, brushing my teeth, I had this weird thought flash into my head that I'm 47 years old,
mhm.
and yet I still feel like a little kid,
Mm.
like in a grown-up's world. And like I'm wondering if that feeling ever goes away. And I kind of get the feeling it doesn't.
I
Um,
tell you that it does not, because I feel like I'm constantly improving.
yeah.
I make sure that I put in my schedule learning time, reading, and
Yep.
things are always evolving. You know, I would Charlie Miller said it best. I think it was like 6 years ago. He stopped doing, he was the O day guy for Mac and Windows, and he was like, dude, it's just getting too complicated. It takes too much time. I have family, I have kids. You know how much time I got to put in to look for O days? I could do it, but it's just like, when do I stop?
Yep.
Right? When do I stop and just live on what I've done? I've done everything. You know, I've won the Pony Awards, and I've won what's the O Day when you get an O Day in Vancouver? I forget the name of it.
Oh, CanSec West.
CanSec West,
Oh, it's the 0 Day
Zero
Initiative
Day
thing.
Initiative. Yes,
Yeah.
he's like, I've done that. I've won that so
Own
many
to own.
years.
Own to
Pwn
own.
to own. I've won that so many years. It's time. You know, I'm done putting in, you know, hundreds and hundreds of hours to find the bug to get ready for Pwn to own. I'm over it. And Dino did the same thing. And Dino was just like, look, you know, it's time. It's cool, these one-off, you know, O days, but, you know, how much more satisfaction and power would I have if I moved to a corporation and be like, look, these are the things that you got to do to avoid these issues. and Dino has moved over to Square, and I think Charlie went to a bunch of car companies and started doing car hacking after the whole Cherokee thing and being on ABC Today, and these are the things that I love, and that's why I do this, and I'm constantly learning. Like, I think these last 2 days doing these live streams, it's more about I needed it. I needed this because I feel reinvigorated to go hard, because usually I get this high off of the Black Hat Defcon, trip. It gives me a high to go back and go hard.
Yeah.
And these interviews today, Black Hat FOMO, it's real, man, because you get this high leaving the conference and knowing, hey, these are the things I want to tackle for, the next season during fall, autumn, and I miss those things, right?
Same.
So, I almost want to do like a conference of like-minded individuals online one day, no money, just off of Zoom, Slack chat, free, no hassle. I don't want to stress. It's like, here's the lineup, because like online is one thing, but in person is just a whole different ball game.
I remember years ago, FX, German hacker from Phenolit. FX, he did an event once where it was a one-night event and it was just a dinner. And it's one of those things where it's like, man, I wish I was cool enough to have been invited to that, because like he had some pretty awesome people at that thing. And yeah, it's kind of a neat idea of doing, something that's small, like-minded people, do it via Zoom, or, if we could actually get a small group into the same place. Yeah. Especially, I think it would be fun to get a bunch of people who aren't necessarily like the top people in their field, but get people from across generations. I think it'd be fun to do something like that, where it's a small, intimate gathering, but it's an interesting mix of like new, mid-career, and like the old dudes.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Man, I mean, I'm lucky enough I was invited to a con that can't be named, and this conference, it's a secret conference that has the biggest names, right? I'm talking about, you name it, and they are probably there. If you could think of a name, they're probably there. And it was one of those things. I know for the last 2 years they haven't had it because they have old school cats there, people in their 70s, 80s. I'll mention one name, the godfather of algorithms. Oh man, it's forgetting me. I have his books. He's there. He signed it. Look,
you talking like Whit Diffie?
No, not Diffie. Let me type this in. We're live. Godfather of algorithms. He works at Stanford. Donald Knuth. Donald Knuth he worked at Stanford. Kind of mathematician. There's so many things I could say. Anyway, I met him at this conference, right? And I was hosting a panel on hacking, reverse engineering. And the guy's a legend. He sits in front of me. And it's almost like if you look at someone, maybe for me it would be Jay-Z, and he sits in the front row and asks you questions. I'm like, huh? Because he's like old school algorithms. He's the godfather of algorithms. So you type that in to Google, he pops up. And Donald Knuth was in the front row, and it's a blessing for me that I get to be at this conference. It's an invite only. You could only invite, certain people. Yeah. And it's one of those things that I'm yearning for when we all open up, everyone's vaccinated and stuff like that. I could go back to this con because you get to meet interesting people that has changed my life. I have a photo of the most hacker-friendly programming language, pouring me wine. It is something that I have a picture of behind here. It's on the wall, right? Because those are the guys. Like I said, that's my Jay-Z of what I do, and it's I'm lucky enough that I've been put in that position to do that. Everyone live, I just wanted to cut to you guys. Add your questions down here. I'm going to be asking them. I see a few questions here, but I see the viewers. I'm monitoring all the chats on all platforms. We're streaming on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Twitch, everywhere. So add your questions. I will ask Noid. We have a question. If I'm a beginner in cybersecurity, where do I start? How do I get in?
Oof. Okay, so this is one that comes up a lot. One of the things I recommend is, and I do this with people that I mentor, is sit down and make a stack ranked list of the things you want to learn. Like, because there's all sorts of parts of InfoSec that, for example, I really like hardware hacking. I like red teaming. I like blue teaming. I dislike governance, risk, and compliance. I think it's boring. But I know people that are way into that. They love it. So make a list of the InfoSec domains that are out there and stack rank it based off of what you want to learn. And then on that list of 10 things, just draw a line between numbers 3 and number 4, and then focus on everything above that line. Pick that top 3, and then make that your field of study.
That is great. I would say the same thing and add, hey, look, cybersecurity is very wide. Whatever you could think of that you want to do, I'm sure there's a position out there for you that you can find.
Yep.
I'm sure of that.
And something else to add to that too is you are never trapped. Like, okay, let's say you decide that you want to be a defender, you want to be a blue teamer, you want to stop the bad guys in their tracks. And then, you start really studying it, you get into it, and you realize that, you were into it, but you're not into it anymore. And you actually want to go be one of the bad guys. You actually want to go be a red teamer. Do it. This isn't the old days. This isn't the days where I have to be a milliner because my father was a milliner, as was his father before him. Yep. That is the truth. You can easily just say like, hey, you know what? This was my top 3 list, but shit's changed and I'm not into this anymore. So I'm going to do something. Do it. Do not force yourself to stay in something that you don't like, or you will come to resent it.
That is the truth. And the funny thing with that, like, I'm currently a researcher. I hunt APTs down. Before doing that, at Intel, I had an opportunity to work doing security research on the BIOS, UEFI. I took the opportunity, took 2 years out of my career to say, hey, I want to do this because I will never, ever get this opportunity again. So I want to do it. I need to do that. And that's why I went and did it. Right now, I'm a better researcher because of it. I know how to look for vulnerabilities and look at, EFI drivers and understand that. Dude, that down there is a wild, wild west, right? But I feel lucky because I had the mentors at Intel that really write these drivers, explain to me what this specific thing does. I was lucky, and I said, that's why I'm going to stay here. I was going to leave, and I was like, nope, this opportunity is insane. I can't pass it up. I'm going to do it. And that's what I'm saying. If 5 years from now, if I say, hey, I want to do only red teaming, I could do that, right? I might have to start working now to be a really, really, really good researcher in terms of finding bugs on web applications, but it's just time, hard work, and doing what you need to do.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. I know there's a lot of people who they see folks on Twitter with high follower counts and they make it look effortless. And it's like, oh, well, why am I busting my ass? Because it seems like these people barely lift a finger and everything gets kind of just rains down on them. And it's like, no, you're watching them in their off time.
Yep.
They're grinding the rest of the time.
You know, I've tweeted about this. People only see the end result and do not see the hard work that you put into getting that result. And it's not easy. It's difficult. It takes time. There's failures, you know. And one thing that I say is, like, you got to continue to push on and keep on elevating yourself and not discourage yourself. And it's really a mental game. It's like, how do you control that, you know, endorphin, or that, you know, when you get the high of highs, okay, how do you keep it there rather than feeling, you know, defeated, right? Where you're like, oh, I don't want it. And it's a thing that everyone goes through, but you got to understand when that clicks, you got to point to it like, I know you. No, not this time. I'm going to keep on pushing through. And it's a learning curve. The only thing I look at is, how am I better than yesterday's Marco? That's I compete against myself. And I mentioned this a little bit yesterday. I had a friend, I won't mention his name, but we were talking at Defcon, I want to say 24, at a poolside, and he was talking about all the researchers that were pushing out these great works that they've done. And I said, hey, man, I get it, but you're looking forward. Why don't you turn around and look at the industry that's behind you? And what you don't think is cool, it is cool. Because there's so many people coming into the industry, but you're just looking at the top tier, those A-listers that are pushing out these vulnerabilities, but you're doing some cool work as well.
Well, and that's that. I mean, recognize that, you know, your accomplishments are cool, regardless of what they are. Your accomplishments are cool. Okay, it didn't get you 100,000 Twitter followers, whatever. It doesn't make it less cool. The other thing too is learn to embrace failure. Learn to embrace failure. It's like for example, like in fighting, like when it comes to like physical fighting, like pugilism, it's like one of the things you have to learn how to do is take a punch.
Yes, sir.
Because at some point in time, you're going to get punched. I mean, Tyson famously said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And when it comes to this stuff, some of these things you're going to try, you're going to fail. You're going to fail. And what you need to do is not do what so many people do and say, well, I guess I just suck at this and I'm never going to touch it again. And it's like, no, learn to embrace failure. A while back, I saw somebody had made the comment of, there's no such thing as failure, only more data.
Oh,
and
I like that
one.
I like that one.
Yeah, because I mean, so many of us, especially when we're junior, you know, when we're junior, it's this idea that I'm going to try something for the first time. And if I'm not an expert at it, trying it the first time, you know, then I'm going to abandon it. Yeah. And it's like, wait, stop and say that again out loud. I'm going to try something I've never done before. And if I'm not a freaking expert at it, then I'm never going to do it. It's like, no, how do you think the people who got good at it learn?
They keep on. And I've been reverse engineering malware, you know, different things for more than 12 years, right? And I have way more than 10,000 hours in, but I still to this day find new techniques, new plugins that help me elevate my game, right? It's like you don't just stop learning. You keep on pushing forward, you keep on doing your thing, and you keep on learning. Right here on the right next to me, I have books that I still pick up. I was like, what does that library do? Right? Yeah. And that is, you can't be an expert on everything, but you can learn. What I always tell mentees is, look, learn how to be a ninja when it comes to Googling. You know, I had a good friend, Josh Porter, said, learn how to ask questions to Google. when you're doing
Yep.
searching, learn how to ask the right questions. Not only the Google foo is all in text, colon, and all that, but what you're asking, know how to ask Google so you can get the best results the first time rather than continually Google for something.
And never be afraid to say you don't know.
Mm,
This is a tactic I take when I'm interviewing people, particularly young people.
mm,
I will continue to ask increasingly more intense questions
mm-hmm,
because I want to see what happens when I take you outside of your depth of knowledge.
mm,
Because odds are I know when you don't know before you do.
mm, mm.
Because there is a certain point where your brain fucks with you. Your brain's still telling you, like, no, you got this, you got this. And that's just Dunning-Kruger. That's just, this idea that, oh, I'm smarter than everybody else.
Yep.
Except we all think that, and it's not true.
Yeah, it's the ego. It's by default. Everyone has an ego.
Yeah.
It's Do you understand when the ego takes over?
Yeah,
Can
and
you
that's
recognize
exactly it.
Can you
I can
recognize it?
Yeah, I can see when you stopped knowing the answer,
Mm-hmm.
but your brain's still messing with you and isn't letting you accept it. And it's like I push people far enough because I want to see what happens. I want to see how far I can take them off the path before they finally stop and go, I don't know. I'm out of my element. And it's like, and I'll tell you an easy way to win an interview with me. Admit that sooner rather than later. Because basically people that aren't scared of failure, people that expect it as a thing, people that accept the fact that they don't know everything and that they'll never know everything. Like, that's what I'm looking for, because that means your brain's open. That means your mind is ready to learn.
Yes, sir.
It's the person who thinks that, oh, there's nothing, you can't teach me anything. I could be better at this than you. If you hire me, you better watch out because I'll be in your seat in a couple of years. And it's like, no, you won't, champ.
Yeah.
I am eternal. I have always been here. I will always remain.
Absolutely. And that's being confident in who you are.
Yeah.
When it's time to move on, it's time to move on. And that's one of the things that you need to recognize as an individual in the industry. Hey, look, tomorrow's not promised, and you might have a better guy, but there's things that they can't do that you can do.
Yeah, and I think you touched on it too. About being confident, and be confident about the things that you're not. That wasn't going to sound right, but be confident in your weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
There are areas. I mean, I'm a pen tester. That's pretty much what I do.
Yeah.
And there are areas. Well, I'll just flat out say, yeah, next question. We're not even going to waste our time on these. It's an area that I'm just dipping my toe into. Sorry. And we'll just move on. I just own it and move on. It's like, yep, that's an area that I'd love to get better at, but I'm not at the moment.
I interviewed at 11 a.m. today Jason Haddix, and he is an extraordinary bug bounty hunter, pen tester. And he specifically said, now, you're getting these smart contracts where they want you to pen test. He's like, I'm not good at that, but I'm seeing where the industry is moving, and I'm going to have to get good at that. And he's at a position where he's, at the director role, the senior director role, and he's still young. And he's like, look, on the weekends, I still hack because I want to sharpen those tools that are in the garage. And I know that is the next phase of where we're going. And, that is insight to everyone watching this. Like, hey, if this guy is on top of his game and he's saying, this is where I'm weak at, and I don't have much experience, but I have to go ahead and read and learn more and figure out where the weaknesses are, that's a clue. And we're all learning, like you just said. We're constantly learning until we get in our grave.
Oh, yeah. No, we... like for my generation, the big one, cloud.
Yes.
Because most of folks in my generation, most of us started with the cloud. It just wasn't a cloud. It was a mainframe.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've watched it evolve. So yeah, there is a part of me that I look at cloud stuff and I kind of chuckle because it's like, okay, You're no longer paying by processor ticks. You're paying by compute cycles. It's the same shit, different wrapper.
Yes, sir.
But I watched as cloud became more pervasive and ubiquitous across the industry. I watched a lot of folks in my age group kind of take two different approaches. Some dug their heels in and basically said, nope, I'm on-prem server till I die. And I'm not going to, there's too much stuff to learn in cloud, and there's too many younger people that are better at it than me. There's no way I can compete.
Yeah.
But then there was a whole bunch of us that were like, hell yeah, new tech, new technology to get in on. And like, yeah, I dove into cloud stuff whole hog because I'm like, this ain't going anywhere. It's just going to become more pervasive.
Yes,
And if you want to call yourself a pen tester in 2021, you got to know cloud shit.
Absolutely. You have to. You have to. It's where everything goes.
Yeah. Don't fear new technology.
Yes, I agree. For everyone out there watching, what do you have to say before we wrap this up? Any last words, Noid? Thank you for taking your time out and coming on.
First off, thanks for having me. It's good to see your face, brother. It really is. I just miss everybody. I can't wait to be
I can't wait
in person again.
I'm telling you right now, I'm giving so many hugs out when I get back to a conference.
Oh yeah.
Golly. Like I'm picturing it in my head. I'm gonna give you the biggest hug ever. I'm gonna lift you up. Man, I miss you. It's been so long, but for the people watching out there, any advice, any last words, my friend?
Well, I would just say, we're hackers. Don't fear technology. Embrace it. Don't fear change. Embrace it. Embrace failure. Look to other people, but don't compare yourself to them. That's a huge one. I think I see a lot of people. I see people getting frustrated because they're 30 and they're not a multimillionaire yet. And it's like, who the hell told you were gonna be?
This is a marathon, man. And it's not a sprint. It's a marathon.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. Just take your time, never stop learning, don't shy away from challenges, embrace your weaknesses, and then turn them into your strengths. And just basically never stop learning. If I could just give you one piece of information, never stop learning. The day you think you've got it all figured out, you have effectively, completely, 100% lied to yourself. And you have done yourself a huge disservice. I am a newbie. I've been in this game for 30 years and I'm still a newbie as far as I'm concerned, and I will always be a newbie.
That's the way I feel as well. I mean, I'm so humbled. Like I said, I wanted to reach out to you to bring you on, give you your flowers. Give you your flowers. You're a big OG, and I'm happy because you're not you're low key, right? You're very low key, very humble, but you're an OG, and so many people know you in so many different pockets and circles, and I feel like it's the coming out party. If for everyone watching out there. You need to put Noid on all of your podcasts because I'm telling you now, there's so many stories we didn't uncover. There's so many things that has happened, that we didn't cover.
This could go on for hours.
Oh, forget about it. We could do a whole marathon, a 5-hour marathon of Defcon incidents and what did you do and how did you tackle them in layer 1. So thank you so much. Right now, you're the last person on the stream. I'm still waiting for Jeff Moss. As you know, he's so busy. And you told me, hey, he's so busy today. You had to take a cab to run the black hat to pull his collar to figure out some things. So I'm in conversations with him. I'm trying to get him on. I know how busy he is. I'm hoping he could come on for a half hour so we can have a conversation. But if he doesn't, it's all good. Sir, you are the last person that I scheduled. Jeff Moss is a bonus, but this is the last talk. This is the last live stream of Black Hat, live. And thank you for your time. I greatly appreciate it, man. I'm
Thanks for
so
having me.
happy that you were the last person, as well as I spent time with you. I haven't spent time with you for a while, and every time we speak, man, I feel like I upgrade myself in many ways, man. You're so humble, and you could be your bravado. You're larger than life, and you're just so humble. So I wanted to give you your kudos, give you your love, and you've always been a big brother to me, and to many of the Defcon attendees and goons. And you created the goons. Let's be honest. As you see, you are the original Dandara when it comes to goons. This is why they wear red. This is why they have the earpieces. And this story has never been told, and I never told this to anyone. I asked you one day, I really want to be a goon. He's like, no, you don't. You're not going to be a goon. I'll never forget this. We were at the Riviera on the side. It's when I was smoking cigarettes, and we were smoking a cigarette together. He was like, you're not going to be a goon. I'm not going to allow you to be a goon because you don't want to be a goon. Trust me, because when you be a goon, there's things you got to do you don't want to do. Trust me, you flex too hard. So, I appreciate you, man. You've always looked out for me. You've always been a big brother, and you always have taken time, regardless how busy you were. You've taken time out to speak to me, back then. And my kudos to you, my salute to you, man. The hairs on the back of my neck are standing up because that's how much you mean to me, man. And
I always tell people that like you are like hands down like one of the most positive people in InfoSec.
oh,
Like if there was an award for it, I'd want you to get
I
it.
did see a tweet on that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. That's the thing, man. Positivity wins, man.
It does.
It's like you have to be positive. You have to show the love. And I think one of the things that I've learned over the course of my life, and thanks to my dad, is to be positive. Even at the darkest moment, what is the light you could shine out of that? And I am positive. So thank you, Noid, for recognizing that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's been a couple of times where I've hit some rough spots, and I've honestly thought to myself, I wonder what Marco would do in this situation, because that dude puts a positive spin on everything. So what's my positive spin on this bowl of shit that just got handed to me? And I'll sit down and I'll put some thought into it and kind of like, yeah, what would Marco do?
I tell you this, some of the worst times is when people tell me, hey, I got fired from my job. I've gotten DMs and have gotten phone calls. And what I always say is, what is the positive you could take out of it? What did you learn? Because that's what's going to get you out of the dumps.
Yep.
So, it's hard to reflect where did I mess up at, but how do I elevate myself and take myself to another level? And it's always being positive, seeing that if I got fired today or tomorrow, whatever the case is, it's like, okay, what did I do wrong? And how do I fix that the next time it happens? And it's about positivity, because when you're negative and you're upset, there's nothing that could come out of it. So if you're positive and you have that outlook and you say, hey, I'm not dead, I'm not 6 feet under, let's make it happen. So yeah. Noid, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate your time. And everyone, the next time I think I'm going to do a live stream with Hack Chat is RSA. So don't hold me to it, but that is what I'm planning. And thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. Until next time, I see you.